Greetings, my name is Ophelia, and this is Of Darkness and Light. I am doing a little series here that has trains going past as per usual, so please forgive the sound. But I am honoring and exploring my love of film and the visual medium of storytelling through some spoken exploration of things I love and how I feel they're misunderstood, because I believe that art literacy is wanting, and that artists are hamstrung by that and it's kind of a propagating situation where the people in control are helping make things for what people's expectations are. And just honoring that film is such a huge part of how people consume fiction, and the need for modern mythology that actually resonates with audiences and actually steers society the way artists are meant to, shouldn't be catered to what people expect. It shouldn't be catered to what people think will make money, because they're always wrong anyways. It should be about what's the best art. It should be about choosing artists who have things to say that are unique and profound, and giving them the tools to tell their stories, and getting out of the way and trusting that artists are sacred. They have such powerful messages to share, and we silence our artists into expectations of conformity that create this great rift where we are not being steered towards progress. We are regurgitating nostalgia, and we are misunderstanding some of the best art that exists. So this one is going to be about Mulholland Drive. That is a film that anyone who has dipped their toes into knows is a puzzle box. It is a fascinating, terrifying, transgressive, challenging puzzle that coaxes your mind to try and figure it out. Collegiate level film theorists often will say that this film is just a Penrose step creation for you to draw your own personal metaphor from. And that is true with certain movies. Like, there are certain films that tell stories that are told with a great amount of intelligence, that leave so much up to interpretation that you cannot say there is a literal answer to what has happened in the plot. There are different types of mysteries. There are mysteries with open ends. One that I can think of like that is wonderful is Denis Villeneuve's Enemy. It's just so blisteringly intelligent, and it does not have answers. It has multiples of answers, and it leaves you in the middle. And it's about reflecting on which one you choose to believe. It's about seeing that there are messages that come through the work, through the juxtaposition of the possibilities. And it is told with such intelligence that that's the meaning, is you choose the meaning, and that'll tell you a lot about yourself. Film theorists gave up on Mulholland Drive and pretend that's what it is. But Mulholland Drive is a puzzle box with literal solutions. And that's why it's so fascinating, because it is the most complex, convoluted, yet concretely understood by the filmmaker with literal meaning, like puzzle box mystery film perhaps ever made. And even when you know the solution, you watch it, it's challenging. And so I've known the solution for a long time. That's one film that I watched over and over and over and over again through the years. And the last time I watched it was probably about 5 years ago now. But it was a transcendent experience for me in terms of feeling like my ability to comprehend art had reached some new plateau. Because I came back to this film that I had known well, that I had known the basic solution to. And I watched it again, and every single decision made sense in my head. It's like once you start following this train of what he's doing, you see so much meaning in everything. And it is one of the most beautifully evocative tales of tragedy, and told in the most peculiar way. And so if you've never seen this and you want to go into it fresh, go ahead and stop this now, because I'm going to spoil it a little bit. But also, if you're somebody who's perhaps interested, but doesn't care to have a little heads up on trying to figure out something that you'd need to watch like 4 times to figure out without any context, this is what's going on in the story. There is a simple solution to one of the most complicated stories ever, and it shows it to you. It shows it to you literally. The main character, Naomi Watts' character, falls asleep at the beginning. She's drugged out, and she's having a delusional, retroactive fantasy about her tragic life in Hollywood that allowed her to come to this dark place where she's on pills. And she obviously has some bad history with parents or grandparents. It's been a while, so I don't know exactly how that all comes into literal sense, but that's perfect, because I don't want to explain it, because it's a puzzle box that begs you to put yourself into it to find the answers. But that's the thing, is like David Lynch is never going to tell you what the answers are, because he's an Andy Kaufman artist. He's just never ever told what was going on truthfully with his work, because he wants people to try and figure it out. But he also would honor someone who had a totally separate opinion. Be like, that's a cool opinion, like because it's artists know that once you create something and you set it down and you put it out to the public, it can be absorbed however. But I would bet that if he heard the film theorists that I heard, who regurgitate these opinions of it being an unsolvable mystery, he'd be laughing about them being idiots. Because she wakes up and then everything becomes non-linear. And it shows you all of the life experiences in an out of order way, with these little hints that allow you to put it together in a timeline if you're like a psycho and you take notes, or you've watched it 4 or 5 times, that show you everything that was metaphorically represented after in her delusion. So she's got this delusional fantasy of coming to Hollywood that is played out for the majority of the movie, and it's beautiful and it's scary and it's surreal, and there's all these moments of really, really explicit symbolism and metaphor, and they are all tied to instances that are shown in the last bit of the film after she's kind of woken up, essentially. But then it's going back all out of order, and it's showing you things that will tell you exactly why she was imagining what she imagined, because it's showing you things that really happened. And it's terrifying, and it's tragic. And there are things that people will puzzle over. There's a club called Silencio, unless I got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. And there is this terrifyingly like evocative monster man behind a trash can. And I would say that monster man, right, is something that to every member of the audience is going to be something different, but it's the unseen, it's the demon of this character. It's the fact that she's not really living this fantasy life. And yeah, that's also what I think Silencio represents, is like that is the transitionary phase for her coming back, right? And I believe she goes twice, and it's almost like she can feel that she's going to be waking out of this delusional fantasy. But it's like, yeah. Anyways, I didn't watch it again, so that's the beautiful thing, is I didn't want to explain it too much, but I just wanted to talk about that film in particular, because that is how I write a lot of the time. I write with subtextual things that I don't say, but I mean explicitly. And I don't begrudge anyone for having their own opinion on what happens. That's a part of creating art with open ends. But I would, if somebody was really enjoying my art but thought it was like there's no answers, there's no literal answers, it's just for your interpretation, I'd be like, cool, that's fine, that's cool, I'm glad you enjoyed it. But I would be smiling like this, because I'd be like, nope, all meant stuff, dude. Everything meant something very specific. And even when I didn't say stuff literally, I meant stuff literally. And yeah, there's just a gap. There's just a gap there in understanding. People just don't get artists. And then they criticize what they don't understand. And then the people who are like teaching college kids about film theory, yeah, they don't get it, dude. They don't get it at all. Because the David Lynches, they never told anybody what was really going on, because they're an artist and they're like, figure it the fuck out, dude. Anyways, I'm gonna turn my heater off. And then I'll just say there's one other film that comes to mind. I mentioned Mark Forster, who is a fantastic filmmaker. He's done some really, really, really powerful films. Crazy intelligent storyteller. His film Stay is another one where I had that argument with somebody. Somebody was like, that doesn't have a clear answer, dude. That is just a movie it's just like a tricky movie with no answer. And it's like, there's a range of solutions of how you could interpret that, but it is very, very specific. It's very specific, dude. Just because it doesn't say it doesn't mean you don't know it. And it's like, some artists are doing the enemy, where they're like, I have created this for you to decide. And then there are other artists who are like, I'm not gonna say what's happening because I want you to figure it out and be smart, dude. So yeah, know the difference. That's my suggestion. And if you haven't seen Mulholland Drive and you're brave, you should do it, because it is a mind fuck, dude. Anyways, have a good one. Butt rubs.